Good. What I want to show you now is just what Faith Promise is. Faith Promise is how we support missionaries, and we budget and have for the last at least 5 years right around $100,000 for Faith Promise. But those are dollars that when you give them, you have to designate this is missions or Faith Promise, and that's a list of the missionaries that we support out of that. And you see it's pretty significant. If you have one of these programs, there should be one on every table. It's on the back panel there. And so I would ask you to pray for those people and to ask about those people. And over the years, we've had many of them. Edwin and Kathy Chi came this year. They gave testimony here on a Sunday morning. Of course, we had Jeremy and Gina Sink here for a number of months last year, and he spoke here. And last year's mission conference, we had a number of these people. So that's who we currently support on this missions budget. This is the status of it. So we've budgeted $97,500 this year for Faith Promise, but only $75,000 of that is committed. And why that is we've built into the Faith Promise budget a buffer because the session has decided they want to support projects that come up throughout the year. And so we have the flexibility to do that. If we didn't budget that, we wouldn't be able to support any new requests or anything else. Also, there was $5,000 in there earmarked for a church plant that we hadn't identified. All that to say, only 75 of it is committed, and maybe in the Lord's providence, that's a good thing, because our giving as of a month ago was $29,000 toward that $97,000. Now that may be concerning, but when you realize this time last year we were at $26,000. So typically what happens is all this money comes in November, December, and this even happens with the general fund budget. But if we do pace with last year we only brought in $72,000. And so what that means is there will need to be some missions cuts if this year matches last year. And why we didn't adjust the budget for this year is we wanted to operate on faith, because we do have some reserves there, and Jim Steiner can help you understand how much is in the reserves and how that works. But we said we're not going to be making drastic cuts based on 1 year, so let's see what happens given a pattern. So we stepped out in faith. But that just tells you the status of things. Also, we support, on this other page in your worship programs, the back panel, the center, $47,000 out of the general fund budget. So when you give tithes and offerings undesignated, we're giving almost $50,000 of that to these other ministries. We do Car Care Ministry, which has a budget. Davidson Medical Ministries, there's a benevolence fund. We give money to the Greater Things Outreach, to Open Hands Ministry, to Salem Pregnancy Center, to Alpha Pregnancy Center, Velsel Mercy. We do drives, and then we give money to the denominational missions agencies. If you add everything up that the church gives, through Faith Promise and the general fund, we're giving about $150,000 to $60,000 out just for missions. But what I want us to understand too is every dollar you give to the church is missions, because the pastors here are doing ministry for you. We're attracting people in, we're counseling people, the staff here to put on events. And so all dollars are missions dollars. But money that we directly give to groups and missionaries, that's the figure. And I'm really grateful for that. We're a generous church. And so maybe you'd consider, if you haven't given to Faith Promise, maybe that's something the Lord is placing on your heart. Certainly we want to still give to the church. That's our first duty, is to the church, the local church we are a part of. And then we can give extra to these causes. And we would like to support more missionaries. If you have these programs and open it up, on the bottom there it says, what's next? And I have 3 P's for you, because I'm a Presbyterian and we have 3 points for everything we do. Pray. Pray for our missionaries, their families, and their ministry impact for the spread of the gospel for the kingdom. Second, promise. Seek the Lord to see if he would have you contribute designated to Faith Promise, which is what we use to fund most of the missions work we do. And then third, partner. And partner can mean a lot of things. But what we mean here is we would love congregants to be a part of a group that is keeping in touch with our missionaries and then updating the congregation about what is going on with those missionaries. So getting photos from them, getting updates from them, getting videos from them, asking how we can pray for them, and then communicating that back to the church. And so that's different ways we can partner in missions. As some people are called to go out, and some people are called to stay and support and pray. And so that's the hope there. So with all that, I'm going to go to the Word, and then we'll pray, and then we'll sing worship, we'll hear a testimony, and then we'll hear from our brother Alan Foster. So 2 Corinthians 9, a famous passage where it says, the Lord loves a cheerful giver. And Paul encourages them in the first part of that. He says, I know you're generous, and I don't even have to ask you for it, but I am going to ask you for it. But he gives the basis, and so we're going to pick up here in verse 10. He who supplies seed to the sower and bread for food will supply and multiply your seed for sowing and increasing the harvest of your righteousness. You will be enriched in every way, to be generous in every way. Enriched to be generous. Which through us will produce thankfulness to God, or thanksgiving to God. For the ministry of this service is not only supplying the needs of the saints, but it is also overflowing in many thanksgivings to God. By their approval of this service, they will glorify God because of your submission that comes from your confession of the gospel of Christ and the generosity of your contribution for them and for all others, while they long for you and pray for you because of the surpassing grace of God upon you. Thanks be to God for his inexpressible gift. What an amazing way to view giving and generosity. We've been given much, and when we give because we've been given, we get grace. But not only that, God gets glory because the people receiving it feel encouraged, and they're giving God glory and thanksgiving for what you did because of what he did for you. It's this great cycle.